Hi Doug, hey Doug.
Hey guys.
We can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, I can't get those up there. This are huge.
Is there a way to do it so that each monitor does something different, or do you not have like the splitter?
I just tried to do that and they both went black.
Okay, then it must need a splitter or something in order.
Unless this is doing something.
It shouldn't. Give everyone another minute, because I know, is Tony on?
Tony is not on yet.
Okay, and Charles is not on?
And Charles said he was gonna be remote.
Yeah. And Tony is now remote too, but
You have to have for a quorum, three.
we have quorum right now. With the three of us, we have quorum.
So is it, are
Um,
we three or? are we
Yeah,
four?
for Shannon resigned. Shannon, we hadn't been able to make any meetings, but we'll go over that for.
Okay.
council.
Find another body. Maybe.
Yeah, so
Hi, Tony.
Hey, Tony.
Good afternoon, everyone.
So it is 6 and we do have a quorum and we are recording. So,
Yes.
no one's opposed. We can go ahead and get started. So we've established quorum. I'll go ahead and call the meeting of the Communications Committee to order on Monday, August 5th, at 6 PM. Liz, has the meeting been properly noticed?
Yes, it has.
Perfect. Then the first thing we'll do before we go ahead and review and approve the June meeting minutes. Shannon unfortunately passed along her resignation today. Just a lot of things going on. So we wish her well and we'll continue on with what we're doing. And I know it'll be a bigger conversation amongst the committee members if we want to bring forward any others into the mix. But that's something that we'll do after this meeting. But just wanted to give you all a heads up since that happened right before the meeting today. But then the first thing is, I'll take a motion to approve our June meeting minutes. Okay. Do I have a second?
Second?
All right, I had no updates.
No.
Tony, Doug, did you?
Nope.
Awesome. Then I'll go ahead and call the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Perfect. Moving right along, we'll move into our discussion items. And so our first is with Tim Bach of our brand guide strategy. Thank you, Tim, for being here. We appreciate you braving the elements. Yeah, so the main gist of this is at our first meeting, we had talked about basically how we had an original brands guidelines and style guide that had been from CCMC that was very old. And so Liz and team engaged Tim to build out a new brand guide. And so today is basically going through Q&A that everybody has had from all of our previous discussions and going to let the committee lead first on any questions or anything. And then just to go through kind of like the general vibe and gist of this and what came from like what was briefed in, where you went with it. So I'll let you have the floor first, then we'll open it for Q&A.
Well, thank you very much. Just a brief introduction. I'm Tim Bach, Patterson Bach Communications. My company is a full service advertising, marketing, public relations, and digital agency. We have worked with a number of large communities. Probably most notable would be Poinciana. And in that instance, we started from scratch, cleaned the slate and kind of did a complete rebrand as if it was a brand new community. And they're still using that brand today and all of that work. So when Liz reached out to us, and thank you for reaching out to us, by the way, she said, we want to update our brand guidelines. And so our approach when we looked at it was a couple of things. One, your current brand colors, there was a lot of choices. And if you look at like some of the great brands, nationally and internationally, Porsche, Ford, even like Chick-fil-A, Starbucks, they have a very narrow color palette. And there's a reason for that because it makes it easier, one, to manage, but two, your end user doesn't see a plethora of colors. They see one or two colors. Coca-Cola is probably, right, the number one brand on the planet. It's red and white. And so probably the two most important pages in our presentations are, I don't have a number, my fault, but these here, I don't know if you can see.
I'm gonna share the screen.
Yeah.
Thank you, Liz.
So we can look at those.
And so our recommendation was, you had a very, what in our opinion, a very large color palette, and we wanted to narrow it. And the logic was, if you see the first two main colors, it's the green that matches your current logo, which obviously we're never going to change that. We wouldn't recommend it. There's a huge amount of brand equity in that, and that would just be silly. And then we look at, well, what is the next most common denominator? And that is the lighter green, which basically we picked up on your street signs. And then we looked at the architecture, which in our opinion, my team's opinion, Celebration is known for this I don't know, idyllic, this sounds cliche, but a Mayberry RFD, but a very community oriented design into how you guys live, work and play, if you will. And so we looked at all those colors, and those are the secondary colors that we chose based on the colors that we literally just saw in your community. And again, trying to narrow that and make it more specific. I don't have the history on where you guys, went with your original color palette, but we just didn't see a lot of things there that tied into what you currently look like today. And so that is the logic, if I may, the strategy behind the color recommendations. And then the font, I don't want to use, it's probably not the right word to use, juxtaposed, but it's set apart from your font that appears in your logo. That is it's a very traditional font. And our thought was, okay, we can step aside from that. And so we chose the font, in this case, Poppins. And a couple of reasons. One, it's a free Google font. So I don't care where you guys use this, you're not gonna have any issues. You go on the web, it's gonna match, it's gonna work. When you use, right, I don't care what you want to produce, print, any kind of collateral, you're not gonna have an issue with that font. And we've, as time has gone by, fonts have gotten, you used to be able to use them a lot easier than you can. So we're very deliberate on what we choose. And then the other thing we liked about it is there's a lot of variations of that font. So you can choose a light version, a heavy bold, condensed, and in our opinion, just gives you guys a lot of options. Help you maybe step forward a little bit into a little more modern look, but we don't want to lose the flavor and the vibe, if you will, of your historic brand that you have with the circle look. That in a nutshell is our approach. And then, we gave you guys various, samples on how to move forward. And then, wherever we end up, when we're done, you don't need to pay us to do all the, individual pieces. We'll serve up to Liz and the team, the graphics, the elements, and then you can use that as a template and draw from that and, move forward without us. We don't need to be, part of all of that unless you need us. So.
Can I ask a couple of quick questions? So if you go back to the palette that you're suggesting, which has the dark green, the lighter green, and then a few colors that complement it, how's it different from, so is the top what okay, I see it. I didn't see that before. I was only looking at the rough initial idea of the revised. So you've eliminated a few. I think that's basically what you're suggesting. My question on it has to do with how these colors are sort of perceived today in terms of feeling modern. Does that question even make sense? I mean, the green, I think it's pretty cool. It's pretty modern. It's pretty, right? Some of the other pastels in the current brand, I can see where they're sort of really dated. At least it seems to me. But aren't some of the colors that are still in the revised also a bit dated? Like the orangey and that sort of tan color?
Well, let me think how I should respond. We wanted your existing look and feel of the community to dictate those colors. And I would not perceive Celebration as this modern community. I don't feel, my team doesn't feel that that's your brand. Your brand is this, idyllic community that is designed and built in a way that was more historic and less modern. And so that is, in our eyes, what was dictating our color palette. If you, and there is some strategy, if you go online and you can do some research and look at colors and what colors are hot, and like there's a blue that's similar to this, which is the robin egg shell blue, and it's a big design and home design color. But we didn't look at trends as much as we looked at, well, who are you and what are you, and let's capture that and not lose that. I hope I answered your question. And if
Yeah.
not, I can
No, it's fine. I mean, I certainly get the idea of us staying very true to our traditions and all that sort of thing. But at the same time, I'm thinking about how do we create a more vibrant feel to it if possible? Because we do want to attract the next generation and younger generation and so forth, right? That's one of the problems with a town that starts to be 30, 40 years old. Its residents have also been here 30 years, right? So now we want to make sure that we appeal to their children and other people who are moving in, and we're competing, right, with some of the surrounding areas that are evolving and developing.
And to that, Tony, I think something that might actually really be beneficial, because I know in the current brand guideline, there's basically like the spectrum and the secondary. And then there's some specific examples from the style guide of like event flyers that I know in like the older guide, I think it's on like page like 4. If there was a way to see some of these colors kind of mocked up as like what it would be utilized for, I think we may be able to help with showing like the way that it could look more modernized.
So maybe use like this page as a predictor and
Yeah.
let us apply what our recommended color palette is to this
Yeah.
and give you a sense of, hey, this is what it's gonna look like moving forward if you choose this color palette.
Yeah, I would say that, and like the fact that like the font type that we're using is a lot more modernized, like seeing those in like collaboratively together, I think would help with the overall like look and feel too of like the colors and the modernization, like Tony is mentioning.
Absolutely. If Liz, if you could send me like a layered version of these, so my designer can pull out those elements. And then this is a great exercise, because I think, and to your point about, reaching a younger audience, our font that we recommended, I think will help move that to speak to a younger audience. But we can do that and show you how it might look with this recommended color palette. And, give you guys something to, if you will, poke some holes in and say, hey, we like it, we don't like it. And from there we can, make adjustments. Does that sound good?
So this packet here, the brand and style guidelines, this is the original.
This is the original,
Okay,
yes.
that's what I-
And so kind of just to do a comparing. Yeah,
The new colors and the new font. I think it would make a big difference in what we're seeing,
yeah,
because it's hard to really take this
yes.
and translate it into reality.
I agree with that fully. And I think also like the designs of the way that like the letterhead and the business cards, like for me, I know that those are obviously very critical, but I think that those come a little bit secondary to some of like the flyers and like the digital branding. Yeah,
This package is almost a necessary evil.
right,
It's this stuff that's really good.
right.
Yeah, this is the new brand. This is who we are. Absolutely.
So that would make me feel better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As well.
So we have gone away from like the flyers that you see in the old Grand Guide. We've gone away from that type style flyers. We just use Canva. So I can send you some of the flyers that we're using now.
Even better.
Yeah.
Even better,
That's-
because if I'm starting
Okay.
here,
Okay.
take me to where you're at now.
Okay.
And then we'll leapfrog to what we have, what we're recommending.
Okay, and that actually was one of my questions is, I know with a lot of design agencies, because I work with them and I very frequently, would you be able, like with your agency, do you work mostly in Photoshop, or is it something that you'd be able to have your designer just basically completely build these files in Canva to pass along?
So I don't know. We ultimately do everything in InDesign,
Okay,
and that's what I'm gonna present you a final PDF.
okay,
But we would design everything, we would build it out in InDesign. We may have Photoshop files, we may have files from other sources, but it ultimately gets built in InDesign. And then when a client approves it, we flatten it, make it a PDF, and that way you can send it anywhere in the world and get it printed. Or send it out digitally.
I think my main question was like, for some of these, I know we were trying to get to a point of like templatization for certain like notices and things. Would we be able to take those InDesign files and mock those over into, I know that they do use Canva, because do we have an InDesign license, or is somebody on the team able to use InDesign with the coordinator position?
We could get the license. We have Illustrator and Photoshop license right now.
Okay,
So InDesign really is what I would say the backbone of how we do all design, and not just me. pretty much every agency
Mhm.
uses InDesign as the ultimate tool to build it out. But so when I would provide files, we would give you a locked up file that's ultimately built in InDesign. We lock it up as a PDF. It loads in memory. You can't mess it up. You can send it out to anybody. They can print it, but they can't amend it. But we always are open to sending the later files of an InDesign, so you can pull all those individual pieces out, do whatever you want with it. Pull out the logo, pull out, in this instance, pull out this blue box and say, hey, we want to send this here, or we want to provide this to some folks doing some flyers. And you can tell us what you want, and typically we send them out, and you're like, oh, we need it this way, we just kind of go back and forth, to we're like, great, we've got what we need, and it's accessible with what we have. So full disclosure, I'm not familiar with the software you're referring to.
It's an open source, like it's a web-based graphic design platform that's like, it's very accessible for people who are also not graphic designers, which right now on staff, it's free, yeah.
Right, gotcha. So I can have when we get down to brass tacks, if you will, like, this is what we're doing, this is what we're gonna do, I'll make sure my design team goes, hey, can you just go online, look at this and see if it's gonna work? When we save a file or we send you some templates, will they be able to have them like test it? Go to this software that's free.
Uh-huh.
Is it gonna interface? And if it's not, hey, let's kind of tweak it to where it will.
That's me.
And it's a pretty steep learning curve on the InDesign. I'm not gonna lie.
It is.
It's,
I worked in it. Yeah.
blue
Yeah.
sky and say, oh, well, you can learn this as you go. It's.
Yeah, and then my last question then, Charles, we'll get to you, was for Poppins. This is also an ADA accessible font, I'm assuming, right?
I will have to confirm.
Okay.
It should be.
Pretty
because we
positive.
know this, and moving forward, everything has to be ADA.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it is, but that would just be something.
I don't want to misspeak, ADA compliant on the phone.
Yeah, but then I do see, Charles, I saw you first, and then Tony will go over to you. So Charles.
Yeah, hey, sorry I'm late. Can you just scroll up? I just want to see the color palette again. And I think this was implied. I just want to look at it.
For
So-
the new one,
Yeah, the new one. So is this saying, so I assume our primary color palettes are the green and the burgundy. So is that primary and secondary? Like, I'm just trying to understand how, are you recommending introducing the third one into the primary color palette? Is that how I'm understanding that?
If I understand your question, the current brand colors are on the top of that page. I'm not
Correct.
seeing maybe what you're seeing. And we're saying if you go to the next selection of colors, those are the colors that we're recommending.
Right. So I guess that's so I don't see, I guess I'm accustomed to seeing more like primary, secondary, tertiary color palettes. This is all just kind of in one spectrum. So how, obviously the primary color is the forest green over on the left. And is that how kind of the hierarchy of the color palette, how you've designed this?
Correct. So there's the three main primary colors that we are recommending. It's the dark green that matches your current Celebration logo. It's that a green aqua, and then that beige are the other, and those would be the three primary. And then the secondary would be, I'm going to use beige, burnt orange, and a light blue sky as your secondary.
So, and I'm sorry if I missed this. Where did the burnt orange is interesting. Where did that, I'm just trying to think like from a celebration and a brief perspective. How did you kind of come up with that? I'm just curious.
So
there it is.
We went online and looked at your all's architecture.
Yeah.
Okay.
The next page,
Tone color.
we just, Celebration is known for its literally, it's your architecture, it's your office buildings and your homes and how they're, you guys have a built-in color palette. Whether you like it or not, that's what it is. And we thought, well, that's not, we don't want to counteract that. We want to, extol that and bring that to light.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's just, it seemed like a pretty far deviation from the current, but no, I hear where you're coming from. Okay, that's good. And then I think that was my only other question. So there's no red, because that was the other thing, like the current color palette is not super friendly for colorblind. Um, this one, you seem to have moved away from kind of the red altogether, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just gonna be candid. I'm sure when these was originally designed, it was, the colors were probably timely. But when we looked at it, and I looked at it with my team, it's a pretty outdated selection of colors.
Yep.
It's just very harsh.
Design back.
Well, I gotta be,
Early '90s.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just very harsh and they're not really complementary to each other. And that's like that is a bright yellow, that's a cyan blue.
Right.
And then
Right.
all of a sudden there's this, pink and peach and, we didn't see any, right, I guess that word is commonality.
Yep.
And I don't want to disparage, this is obviously someone's baby and, I'm sure there was strategy and thought behind it when they did it.
And it lasted a very long time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think also to Charles's point, something that might be helpful with this packet is if we could have it broken out like this.
Well, so ultimately, yes, for us is, it would be helpful if we agree on this.
Yep.
And then our ultimate deliverable is now we take this and apply it to all of that, serve all of that up to you with a set of templates and, all the individual pieces parts, and then you guys can move forward.
Yeah. Cool. And then, Tony, I know you had your hand up.
Charles asked the questions I was gonna ask, so we're good.
Okay, awesome. Yep, then, Fabiola or Doug, do you guys have any questions?
What were the objectives in redoing the brand guide?
So we're looking for more consistency and more professionalism in our communication. So our flyers, consistency in our flyers. We also use the brand guide, the colors to do the flagpole designs around town.
So it
Look
wasn't
at-
to modernize. I mean, look, I'm fine with the colors and I'm okay with all of this. But if the objective was to update, modernize, streamline, simplify, I can't tell if we've simplified anything until I see applications. So I think we're gonna do that, right? We're gonna see some sample applications, right?
And Liz, I don't know if we have this, but I don't know if the camera will zoom in, but in the current style guide, we currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 potential font derivatives. And
That's crazy.
7 different primary and secondary colors along with their spectrums that are eligible to be used. So I would say that this new guide cuts it down by about like 40 to 50% in terms of like streamlining things.
I mean, that definitely seems to be we check the box on that, which I think is great because people who, do use this guide in the future are going to want to keep it simple. So that's good. We've achieved that. I think the updating is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, I think the updated palette kind of is more, when I look at it, we got rid of some of the pastels and kind of kept it more nature because those colors all to me, I see them out when I look out the window here. And that's okay. I mean, I'm okay with that, but I'm not sure that updates anything. I think it kind of maybe makes it a little more earthy versus modern. But I'm the last person who you want to ask about what's modern. So as far as colors are concerned. So look, I think it's fine. I think if it's easy, increases ease of use in the applications for which you are going to use the guide and the palette and the fonts, then yay, you've achieved what you want to achieve. That's how I view it.
So can I just pick up on what Doug was saying? And I'm sorry if this is going to be kind of the next step in this. And I'm going based on what I see with agencies and when we're doing the kind of the creative brief. Did we focus more on just the aesthetic, or are we also kind of honing in on how we talk to residents, how we project our brand outward and inward? And I'm saying that because obviously, you know, how we talk on social media, how we reference celebration, was that part of this exercise, or are we purely just looking at the color palette and the overall aesthetic?
So,
And again,
yeah,
sorry
Liz,
if I missed that.
So that, Charles, what you just described would be an additional scope of work. That wasn't in the original scope of work.
Okay, because I guess that's where this is great work, but also you have to have the story behind it. And I get where you're going with the architecture and whatnot, but it seems to be a little bit kind of one dimensional. I thought this was going to be kind of an end-to-end brand, because when you say brand guidelines, it's not, this is effectively like logo and color palette. Brand guidelines are how do we talk to our residents? How do we project our brand? Things like that. So it's just
and
food for
Charles, to that point, we do not currently have that in the current brand guidelines, which is probably why it was not put in the original scope.
thought. Okay.
So
Yeah,
maybe that could be something for further discussion.
Yep.
I do agree, it would make sense.
Absolutely, and you're right, we took we took your existing brand guideline and said, okay, let's update it. That's what we based our scope on. But we can certainly add to that and say, okay, if this is approved, now let's go on to what I would refer to as the content behind this. What is the agreed verbiage when we refer to, you know, the community at large? What is the agreed verbiage at a 10,000-foot level when we refer to events? And we can break that down. And again, give some guidance so that, you know, when whoever is doing it, if it's a poster for your exotic car show, you know, there is that boilerplate of verbiage that always positions celebration exactly the way we want it. And then, oh, we're having an exotic car show, or we're having, you know, a food truck night, or we're having, you know, whatever it might be. I mean, I concur with what you're saying regarding the content that you would want to narrow that down and solidify it, and then ultimately, you know, overlay that and apply that to this graphic standards manual.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're talking about a communications platform and a revised strategy that aligns with the look. So that's a whole new project in my view.
And that is something that we can recommend as a committee. That's something obviously that like this charge had been started before we had been created. So that's something, if that's something we would be interested in doing and creating kind of a framework for that, we can do that and recommend that to the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of one of those things you want to take inventory of what you've used as communications vehicles and how each has been, the language within each, and then decide, okay, we did this audit. Here's what needs to be changed. Here are sort of the new foundational messages that, again, that is a comprehensive project. So this is a good start. I mean, if this is what the goal was, I think you guys did okay here. So congratulations.
And then Fabiola, I know I see your hand raised.
Oh, yes, hello. Please, I want to be clear about this. This color spectrum that we are looking at, that's the new concept of the aesthetics of celebration. These are the new colors. The new colors are
The ones that are on the bottom of the slide.
on the bottom. That's
Yes.
correct.
So
think
yep,
it's a very good
eliminating the red.
I think it's a very good idea to change it because the colors above are very vibrant and very and I think that vibrant is not modern or simple. So, but I'm thinking about that when you see celebration, I see a lot of white and off-white with green. and I wanted to see more of white in some part of the palette. Maybe we can try that. And for me, the orange and the tan is very good. I don't know about the blue, but I'm thinking about what I see when I enter the neighborhood, and I see some white and off white. Maybe we can think about that color too.
Because we can use white as our, I mean, that's our negative, negative white space.
Yeah.
So when we design that, we can use, it'll naturally occur in whatever we use, whatever we design.
Thank you, Fabiola. Do you have anything else? I'll take silence as nothing. Then does anyone else online have anything for Tim? Again, silence is good. Diana, do you have anything?
Yep.
And I don't have anything else. But I guess for next steps would be the mock-ups of what some of like the events flyers or like social media graphics would look like, and then.
Yeah, you guys decide one, I mean, don't send me, 900 pieces, but send me 2 or 3 that, hey, these would be good for us to design using our recommendation. And then you guys can see it and it's, and hey, this is what it's gonna look like moving forward.
Yep, we have a lot of forms that our resident services team uses on a daily basis.
Okay,
Liz, what I would recommend is an event graphic, a social graphic, and form.
Okay.
So that it'd be like a really good, it's
Once
now hits the gambit, yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, if you can provide those back to us, then we can take a look at it. And then basically, I believe the next step on this would basically be a recommendation of this to the board for approval of new brand guidelines.
I just messaged Lauren about TCC and their involvement. She said they have relinquished their Class B membership at CJC level. They now have no say mostly.
Okay.
They stepped out.
Yep, I know that was a question, so thank you.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thank you, Tim. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you for
Nice
coming out
meeting
in the weather.
everybody, meeting us, person and online, and yeah, we appreciate the work, and we'll look forward to the next steps. All right, y'all have a great meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye now.
Hi, thank you. Okay, so then moving on, the next piece is we've been discussing the marketing policies of what CROA is doing versus current partner programs. So Liz, I'll let you take that away. And then do you mind sharing the marketing timeline Gantt chart?
I'm opening that right now.
Thank you.
I'm going to Zoom. You're so.
Ready whenever you want.
Also, thank you for putting this in this format. This is extremely,
Yeah.
this is extremely comprehensive. And this also, I think, for moving forward for any new staff members who come into either event or marketing will be able to easily.
This is only.
No, so last time, our last meeting, we were discussing what community organization and partnership marketing looked like, and no one really had any suggestions. But it was under the guise of what is CROA doing for each of our individual CROA sanctioned events. And so this is just from superficial glance is about triple what we do for anything else at the very least. So
This is just for CROA.
this is just for CROA events. So this would be, say, for the July 4th fireworks, for parade.
It does not apply to anything that a partner program.
Correct.
does.
Right, so what our charges to, what our charges to look at our event marketing and the partner program organizational club marketing to make their marketing fair and equal across the board. But it was requested that you see my event marketing first, so that we have a starting place to go from. So I created this little timeline. It's a 16-week timeline, so 4 months. I put together the different resources that we use. So I kind of grouped those by, there's different groups there, emails, social media, the website. And then starting about 4 months out, going all the way up to the event day, kind of what we put where. So that is what is listed on this little timeline.
Does anyone have any questions? I know that this was a
Yeah,
question.
I
Yeah.
do. Do
Yeah,
we
go for
have-
it.
Do we have any data on effectiveness of all this? That's a lot, right? And so I guess my first thought is, are we getting the bang for the buck? The effort that goes into putting it in, the amount of hours and time that's spent managing it versus the readership. Do we need them all, or is there a better way? What do you think?
Still see people come walk by an event and say, I had no idea there was an event going on. I mean, as far as statistics, we can pull metrics from the email blasts and social media. As far as the website, we have the Google metrics now, so we can get data on website pages visited, and things of that nature, but I don't have any hard statistics on what is better than the other.
How about in time? Meaning, is there an order in terms of how easy it is to manage them each? Is there a way, if you eliminated some of these, if I'm not saying we should, if you eliminated, would it be a great savings in time for you and efficiency and the effort that it goes into it? Because I'm not surprised to hear people say, "Oh, I didn't even know there was some." You can have
Well,
it.
that's a really good question that's going to lead into another topic tonight, but as far as the most amount of time it takes is all of the social media posts, right? Because you may be creating a new graphic, you're saying the same, creating that content for the different platforms and saying the same thing in different ways. So. There's also, right, if we're putting the same content across all the different channels, it's gonna be quicker than creating new content and new ways to say things, new different looking graphics to catch people's eyes rather than seeing the same thing all the time on the different platforms, so.
One of my questions too, with like the flyers, all of those that we utilize across every source are basically the same sizing, right?
No,
Okay. Would you be able to?
there's
Yeah.
actually, the digital signage is a completely different size. Facebook posts are a different size than Instagram posts. The Facebook event pages have a different size graphic for the photo on there, so there's a lot of different sizing with the different platforms as well.
So create one event, the media that goes along with the one event. Do we have any idea how much time and commitment that is? Because there's different formats for different platforms.
Yeah, and how many sizes in total are
Yeah.
we utilizing and what could we be able to potentially streamline? Because there are ways that you can do Instagram and Facebook being the same size.
Yeah,
So there are some ways that we might be able to streamline it if you're able to give us like reference of that.
okay,
That's really the only way we have of quantifying this other than effectiveness in
Mhm.
terms of hits.
right.
What are we investing?
It's time, yeah.
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 And obviously, the only metrics that we're going to really genuinely be able to see are from the social media pages, email, and web traffic, because we can't really for out of home for digital signage or flyers.
Right.
Yeah, Tony, I think that's a good point of, for maybe Liz, if this isn't too much of a lift on your end, from say an event of your choosing, that's one of our more popular ones, pull an aggregate of the Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube metrics. Again, we're discussing Twitter, so we can hold on that temporarily. Like the average engagement of the Friday Flash, the Monday Matters, and then from the dashboard, the web traffic.
Okay.
And we can just kind of put that together. And then also how many different sizes you're needing in terms of collateral. So that we can maybe look at like some best practices of resizing things.
Okay.
I mean, I guess it's
Are your-
philosophically, I suppose I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I guess philosophically, right? We always in marketing think about, do you try to reach everybody everywhere? Or do you educate people to come to where you're at? Right? What do you want to invest in? Do you want to invest in reaching all the channels? In which case you try to make sure that whatever you're creating, you can leverage across as many channels without having to change a whole lot, right? So that's one button, you press it and you're done. You got five outlets. But sizing sometimes change. I get all that. I understand that. Or, right, do you say, nope, I'm going to be present on this and this, and, and do a campaign around getting people to come there. So it's just different way of coming at it. But Liz, what I'm trying to do is make sure that, that we're using yours and your teams. And I know you've said before, you're a team of one, but, using time effectively and making sure we're not just doing things for the sake of just doing them.
Of course.
So were we,
Charles, I know. Yep.
yeah, are you, two things. So in terms of trying to get analytics, when you're doing QR codes, are you doing trackable QR codes? Like, are you able to track those back at the QR code level, or do you have
Yes,
analytics baked into that?
We create those in Bitly and they do a count of how many scans that they received.
Okay. And then I guess the one thing that, and this is more just kind of what I've seen, when you're kind of activating the campaigns, it seems like a lot of times you're taking the, and I'm just using a flyer as an example, and then you're just kind of disseminating that flyer through social media, right? It's not like I mean, you'll write copy for like the post or whatnot, but generally you're just repurposing the flyer for multiple channels, right?
Mostly, yes. It depends on time. So if there's more time, if I don't want to post the same flyer 10 times leading up to the event, so right, I'll use an old event photo or element of that event and post about that instead of using the same flyer over and over again.
Okay.
Doug, Fabiola, do you have anything?
Okay, thank you.
All good.
Anna, do you have anything? Send Liz, sorry for more homework, but we can then continue the discussion also of being able to start to streamline some of this for you. Like Tony said, it should be getting people where they want to meet us, but also like in the most streamlined approach possible, because yeah, you are a party of one. Okay, no one has anything else. We can go ahead and move into the SierraNet SMS piece. So I believe it was last month, time is flying, we had a joint meeting with the technology committee, and they had no issues or no technology or security related qualms about this. We discussed that it was a very small marginal fee to add this on. And so Liz, I guess for next steps on that discussion, it's a contract addendum, correct?
It is. We just need the board president to send an email to add my text module to SierraNet, and then he'll just have to provide a signature. So it's simple.
Yep, and then I guess the main reason we put this on the agenda was for policy procedure wise, do we need to do anything to the board except basically provide recommendation?
Nope.
Okay, and then does it need to be voted on by the board or just by board president?
I don't think it needs to be a board vote. Charles could correct me if I'm wrong, but
I think we have to. So it's, I mean, it's under technically the contract limit, but I think because
because
it's
it's
a
an
contract,
addendum, right?
right? Yeah, because it's an addendum to the contract, even though it's like $180 or whatever. But I
So
think
what I can do is put it on the workshop packet and then for approval at the August board meeting.
okay, yeah. Honestly, we're all. I would.
Or you can do that via email.
Yeah, go ahead and put it on the work. I mean, I would bet it's going to pass unanimously. I think we're all in favor of this, and especially obviously the cost and whatnot. So as long as your recommendation from the committee is to implement, then and then I guess the implementation. What's kind of the lead time? Is it just they turn on the button and then you see it in Syrinet? Like how does that work on your side, Liz?
Well, so we already have the emailing, mass emailing capability in Syrinet, so I'm pretty sure it's gonna be very simple. They just turn it on and then they can, instead of hitting email, hit the text.
Okay. So, I mean, one thing that Janine and you as the committee may want to think about, I guess this is obviously as everyone's starting to work together and as the committee's kind of getting their feet under them, how are you going to get the message out there to the community that this is obviously a new capability, driving them for the, to get the prior express written consent and all that. And I'll leave that to the committee, however you want to kind of formulate a recommendation, or if you just want to let management go with it, totally up to you, but just food for thought.
So my thought was, basically, we're not making like an official vote on this to recommend, but just basically having a consensus that everyone is okay recommending this to the board to vote on for a contract amendment. And then we can via email. I've started drafting some things just because of like what I do professionally of like SMS best practices and guidelines. I would circulate that in a Google document for everybody to leave notes and comments on for us to come to a consensus and then pass that along to the board along with the information about our recommendation. So that was my thought and would love everyone else's input.
I would just need that document soon,
When is the workshop?
the 14th, but they get their packet on Friday.
That's more than enough time. I'll have it done.
Okay.
And so I'll be able to pass it tomorrow.
To give them that, the guidelines and what we're recommending at the same time. Move along faster.
Yes.
Thank you for doing that.
Doug, Tony, Fabiola.
It works.
Cool.
Real quick, what
Yes,
do we
yes.
we do have mobile numbers in Syrinet now, right? I mean, so do we know
They
like
have to opt into the SMS
And I'm-
function,
okay, so that's going to be a whole campaign. So that's Janine, what you're
right? So we're gonna
Okay.
have to say, SMS is now offered.
Yes.
To get it, you need to do this, all that.
I
All of
thought that
that.
was already baked in. I thought that was already like when you go in, they're not capturing that now. I just thought the functionality isn't on. I thought we're already capturing the express written consent.
I don't, for the email,
I thought we were for any type of communicate, but would you be able to?
I'll double check.
Yeah, I'll send you a reminder tomorrow morning.
I'll double check what the opt-in says now.
Okay.
So I know, Charles, like one of the big things with SMS now with some newer regulations, it is obviously, it's always been an opt-in process, but it's a very explicit opt-in process with
Yep.
several carriers.
Yep.
So that's the only thing. So we can go ahead and double check all that. But I know like T-Mobile and Visible and a couple of other ones are very explicit about their consent.
Okay.
So
Yes.
we'll just double check. But again, it also is alerts a lot of the time that are related to functionalities that would be considered transactional in nature. So we'll also have to look at that transactional nature, which would be a building's closed, a pool's closed, there's flooding versus a marketing, which would be come to our event.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, you're,
Okay.
you're spot on. And that's why, yeah, again, because you start getting into like hours that you can send text if it's telemarketing. So I
Yeah.
trust you. I trust all of your experience on that. I have experience with it too. So I'm glad to hear this because that's
Yeah.
And if we need to get the attorney involved, Charlie, I don't think we do so much, but
We
certainly,
definitely,
Definitely do at some point.
just to be safe, we should.
yeah,
have
we don't need
somebody.
any TCPA violations.
No.
No.
Okay.
All right, cool.
But is everybody then good with that plan? So we can convene over email. Cool. Well, then, moving right along, the next thing on the agenda was we discussed about how do we continue to streamline and find people where they actually are, which leads to the Celebration Town Hall Twitter, which took me 5 minutes to find. Yeah, I could not find it. And so this is more of just a conversation of providing a recommendation of continued utilization. So before open the floor, just pulled some quick data and metrics from a platform that I use that's called Keywords Everywhere, which scans different pages, YouTube for SEO and for engagement levels. And for us, we on Twitter have over 1,400 followers. Of that, 30 to 40% are fake. Of that, we receive 112 impressions per post, which is extremely low. Average of 1.36 likes and have an engagement rate of 0.1%. So I'm going to open the floor to everybody related to this, but just wanted to give those numbers before jumping into the conversation.
So, I just want to go first really quick. For Twitter, we usually just duplicate our Facebook posts. We don't tweet, we don't sit and tweet all day. We rarely tweet at all. So, that's how we use Twitter.
I mean, look, hearing those numbers makes it believe like it's an effort that doesn't need to be made. If we're only getting what, 112 impressions or something, it's a very low. Obviously, our community or our followers aren't on Twitter or not using that as one of their main sources of information. So,
yeah,
I don't know what other people feel, but it sounds like it's not hitting the right place.
So Tony, Doug, Fabiola.
I think I think our goal should be simplicity and as much as we can. And so with those kind of numbers, that's why I was curious about what are the numbers on some of the others, right? And I imagine that maybe Instagram would be a little better and Facebook and so forth and so on. But yeah, let's pick the ones we like, think the ones where we get the bang for the buck, and let's do them really well. And that's what I would suggest. So I never tweeted a thing in my life. So it took you 5 minutes to find it. It'd probably take me, 30 minutes to find it.
You're extremely tech savvy.
Yeah.
Platform.
The first thing that comes up is unfortunately a random news of celebration page, which has not been used in a while, but that's the first one that comes up versus our account, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I guess if we're looking for votes or whatever we want to call them, I would be like, just close it. Don't bother it. Eliminate it, but eliminate it right. If we're going to get off, let's get off, right? Let's make sure we disappear from it as opposed to just let it hang there.
Yes, I agree.
So again, this is not, we're not voting on anything, but we can make it as a recommendation to remove our presence off of Twitter/X.
Yes.
All right, so Liz, if you need any assistance with that, let me know. I doubt we need to do any downloads of data or anything, so. Okay, cool. Then moving right along, we have the communications coordinator, which for those of you who, I think it was emailed out, but just in case you're not aware, our communications coordinator resigned. And so Liz is currently solo working on marketing again. And so Liz, I'll let you go into the discussion on this and the need for us to have this on the agenda.
So I have here the job description of the communications coordinator. And what I just want to go over with you all is, for the time being, the board has put the position on hold. Charles can maybe shed some more light into that. But I wanted to go over with you what the communications coordinator's responsibilities were. So you have a good idea of what they spent the most of their time on.
Yeah, Charles, can
And
you tell us
I
why
can do,
they're
Yeah.
curious?
yeah. So what's happened is we have a lot of competing priorities within the operating budget right now. I don't know if you've been following kind of the last few meetings, but maintenance continues to be a very high budget item, and we're running pretty hot there. So the thought right now is that we need to kind of redeploy those funds for some of these other competing priorities right now. Um, it's not to say that the position is going to be eliminated, but we just need to be thoughtful around kind of where we're putting our funds and where are the items that need attention. So again, I want to be careful to say that the role has not been eliminated. It's just that we're just trying to be strategic about where we're putting our money and when and whatnot.
And so I guess my question would be, what would be some things relative to like quantification that our committee or Liz would be able to provide to give you all more confidence of either like rehiring position or like looking into a different resource for communications and marketing?
I think just making sure that, I mean, how long was the communications coordinator in place? A couple years almost.
A year and a half.
All right, so I think taking some lessons learned, was it really an effective position? I guess, how did we describe the role, and then how was it actually done in implementation? Do we think there are opportunities to evolve it? And a lot of this, I think, is going to run parallel with this committee coming online. So, we're talking about getting rid of Twitter and some other things, putting time in other priorities. Um, it's hard right now to definitively say we need this, and this in terms of KPIs in order to put the role back in. Um, I think it's just kind of wait and see, unfortunately, right now. I know it's not a great message, but that's kind of where we are. Again, not a great message, but I think we need to just kind of revisit after we get a few of these other priorities out of the way.
That makes sense.
It's understandable, because right now I know there's a lot of maintenance wise going on.
Mhm.
And you have to be fiscally
Yeah.
responsible, budgeting out.
Yeah, and again, 851 and maintenance
Yeah.
and everything else. So, yeah, we can certainly talk about it as a board, because we do have
Yeah.
the budget discussions coming up. So, it's something we'll certainly talk about.
So with the budget discussions coming up, I do want to talk about if we were to reopen this role, the job responsibility that it would be, and what would be an expected salary for the level of professionalism that we're looking. So a lot of the communications coordinator's responsibility was the Celebration News magazine, gathering all that content, editing that content, proofing that content. That's a good solid week, if not more. The other large chunk is social media management, so they would do all the initial scheduling, posts, graphics for those platforms. Then they would come through myself for the approval. The Friday Flash email blast, solely responsible for that. Gathering all of that content and putting that in there and getting that out. Uploading documents to the community website. We have 3 different event calendars that we are updating right now, so they were responsible for making sure that all the information was correct in all of the event calendars. Creating and uploading all the content to the digital signage.
So I think,
So those are
Yeah.
the main,
so I think with
what
that.
takes up the most time.
So I think would probably be helpful is again, the exercise of like effectiveness of different pieces that you're doing to be able to like pull that through and see, where we may be able to one streamline different components there. And then I know a couple of things that I think would be records request related were also related to like some of the financials of like the website contract and a few things like that, like being able to pull together where the money is going for a lot of like the platforms and things, to then be able to give like a good idea of like what we would want to look into for other expenditures related to marketing. And if it's not rehiring a position, like where do we go from there? But thank you, Charles, for the context makes complete sense.
And just to add a little more color, I think I'll just speak from my perspective. Like the Twitter conversation that we just had, that for me, like being able to look at this a little bit more holistically and digging into the analytics and looking at the effectiveness. And I think Tony said this a few times, and I appreciate it. We need to make sure that what we're doing is relevant, appropriate, and it's meeting the needs of residents. And if it's not, we need to revisit it. And again, I understand that we want the role, but we need to justify it, right? With headcount and anytime you're adding staffing or keeping staffing, you need the ROI. And if we can just validate that what we're doing is working, great. How are we going to improve it and sustain it? Great. And if it's not working, what are we going to do to turn it around? And I think that would give a lot of us more comfort, I think, going into 2025. But I think for right now, for 2024 at least, that funding unfortunately just needs to go elsewhere. But again, 2025, if I think you all have some time as we get into the budget to get in front of this, and certainly, like I said, I'll bring it to the board and get their thoughts on it as well.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add is, whenever we make decisions like this, which is absolutely correct thing to do for a board to say, hey, we got to spend money differently. It's important that we do exactly what we just said we were going to do, which is look at the things that position was doing. And then I think it's important, and I'll state it for purposes of recording it in the minutes, we should not expect that everything that was done by that person continues to be done, because they no longer exist, right? It's not, and so sometimes I know we get in trouble, right? Because as leaders and managers, we say, oh, we're just going to cut this position, and then we ask our team to pick up all the slack. Well, that's not reasonable in this case, certainly when we don't have a team. So first thing is understand that we're not doing that, right? We're not asking Liz to pick up the entire slack. What we're asking Liz, I think, to do is say, tell us the impact of what's not going to get done. Because maybe the board doesn't understand completely the impact, neither do we perhaps, on what's not going to happen. Maybe the exercise is, Liz, tell us what you might be able to pick up reasonably. And it doesn't mean exactly the way it's been done now. Maybe it's got to be done differently, less often, whatever, right? What are we going to do different? And then what's not going to get done, so that we're clear on, don't expect that to happen because it's not getting done. And I think we just need to make that part of our notes so that everybody's clear on, no, we don't have that because we don't have somebody doing that anymore.
Yeah, Tony, that's a great point, Liz. When you start pulling together your event, like the event recap pieces, if you can also denote like this is something that is now going to be out of your scope and out of your bandwidth, I think that would be important.
Tony, that's very well said.
Mhm.
Thank you for bringing that
Yeah.
out. Very well said. Because typically we say, oh, someone else will just do it.
Yeah.
And
And
yeah, the
that's
case.
not fair.
And I say it from experience because I was the one guilty of saying, oh yeah, let's just pick up the slack. Come on, guys, you can do it. So
Yeah. And it's very much when things get reduced, it's okay to say no. I've learned that too.
Have we ever hired or had an internship program?
No, I don't believe so.
We have
It's a great
not,
idea.
not to my knowledge.
That is a really great idea.
There would be a lot of people that would want to do it here at Celebration.
And we have plenty of students and like high school and students.
And I would bet we have
Just
someone.
some of the things that I don't know all the things that Liz has picked up, and but it sounds like some things could be done by an intern, updating calendars, providing, updating social media platforms, things like that. As long as there's supervision, the intern could do more. So maybe that's one option. And there certainly are plenty of either high school or, local universities that are relatively close by that we could, work with them to identify, make it part of their program, their internship programs.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, it's
Yes.
absolutely wonderful idea. I mean,
I think
great for
that's great.
resume, it's great for the community, it's great for them. And certainly as you look at this, and that's not to denounce anything, but this is really tactical, right? This is all just really execution of the larger strategy. Just love it. Love it, Doug. Great idea.
Yeah, and also that brings up a good point too, Liz. Do we have like a transitional document or anything from? I don't remember Smarter. Like, do we have any?
No.
So this would also be a really fantastic opportunity if we're building an internship program to build transitional documents for this role and basically like a guide of best practices to marketing and communications within the town. So I will add that to the list of things to follow up on.
Yeah, I mean,
but
you
yeah.
would need to, as part of that, you'd have to create literally a job description for
Yes.
the internship role, and then conduct some kind of outreach, because what is it, August? I mean, universities re-up back in like what, 2 weeks maybe? Kids start going back to colleges 3 weeks at the most, for the most part. So the internship programs, they can be during holidays, they could be during the school year, they could be summer only, they can be whatever makes sense. But so, I would just make sure that we have some type of job description that's part of that.
I like that idea. Does anyone have anything else? Then I know that working on something like this, I think would be a great, we would just want to start doing communication with this over email and then kind of present everything at the next meeting, but so that we have enough time also to start recruiting. This is something we decide to do.
Yeah, anything to make Liz's life easy. I think that should be the objective.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Doug.
Yeah, I like that idea. And we also already do have like the job description actually for the communications coordinator is extremely robust. And so it can easily be tailored down.
Yeah.
And it's very descriptive also with different responsibilities and tasks.
So how would they be an intern of Grand Manners or an intern of CROA? Just Liz, I'm just curious.
It could be a Grand Manners. Does
So
Grand
you
Manners
have-
have anything like that already in place in any community?
I have no idea. I'm sorry.
Can you
I
look
can
into
find
that?
out. Yeah.
Yeah, just so we can follow, because if they have established guidelines, because I don't know how that works. Like as our management company, if they need to go through like the formal hiring, I assume it's through you, the internship. CROA can't just be like a call for, you know what I mean?
So we
Maybe
don't
we
have-
can. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be an additional follow-up.
Mhm.
Cool. Does anyone have anything else on that? I know, Liz, we're giving you a pile of things.
I am okay.
Cool.
I want you all to know. I am, I did all the communications before we had a communications coordinator, come on. So, I know what needs done. And I know how to prioritize, so I'm not scared. But thank you for wanting to make my life easier.
Cool. And
Well,
if nobody has.
If that's the case, pick it all up. No, just kidding. Just kidding.
So then if no one has anything else, the next thing we have is related to the covenants letter update. So Liz, I'll let you provide a quick, what this item is about, and then I can provide my recommendation.
So it was suggested to have the communications committee review the covenants letters that go out to the residents to kind of soften them, but still maintain the information that needs to be in there for the statutory requirements. So I emailed those to you all. Reading through them, there's just some wonky like sentences in some of them. Like, for example, we know you have busy lives. And applications can be found on the front porch, so it's. We don't really call it the front porch anymore, and we don't really want to tell people that we know they have busy lives, right? We want to get to the point and make it simple enough that they understand what they need to do. Because they've gotten a violation.
So
I don't
can
know
I
if this
jump
came
in?
from Charles or from
Ye-
Eric.
ye-
This was.
Yeah, it came from me. So, um,
It was me.
is Gary Hudspeth in there? No.
No.
All right. So,
Maybe.
all right. So the last few appeals meetings, there's really a consistent theme that we hear from residents, and it's that the covenants letters are, so there's a couple things. One, obviously getting the information on the violations accurate. That's outside of anything you can do from a communications committee perspective. The other thing that's, I think, perfectly within your wheelhouse is um, softening the letter. And I think, Liz, you nailed it spot on. There are things that are either outdated or, maybe a little disingenuous. And it would be good for this committee to take a look at it and see if there are ways to refine the messaging, change things up, make it more succinct, make it more, impactful where it needs to be. However, really you want to look at it. Obviously, it's going to have to go through the attorneys, and there are certain statutory requirements that have to be met. But I think, to the extent that you all can provide feedback, red lines, we'll certainly, we'd like to hear it, because it has been a recurring pain point in appeals and just through email discussions with residents. So, Ginny, take it away.
Yep, so my recommendation is that we all have this via email, instead of going through this now, to take some time to go through, make some comments, make some notes and red lines, to basically have this emailed back by early next week to Liz with your comments, and then we next up would meet with the attorney to see what comments are able to be implemented, which can't, just based on guidelines and legalities, and then for us to just kind of come to a consensus based on that to reorient these and then have them passed by the board. But didn't want to make it so that we had a full blown discussion now, since it is a lot of text and a little bit of legalese.
Okay,
Diana agrees.
I agree. I mean, I'm on covenants as well, so I hear the same. I hear it from both sides, but I agree it needs to be rewritten again.
Could we create a Google Doc so we could just do it and then?
I think so. So I think we have each of these in PDF formats, right?
They're actually in Word.
So if they're in Word, we can
Yeah.
convert, I can convert those to Google Doc. We can make those red lines and basically make it as like suggestions and comments, and then can pass it over to Liz and our attorney. So I can do that.
And you want feedback on all three?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Yep, so there is the non-compliance, the pre-fine, and the fine notice.
We may also want to put these, and this is more down the road. Diane, I'm thinking from your seat too. I mean, I do think the covenants committee should look at this too. I do think ultimately, and I'm liaison for covenants too, so I think I can certainly set the table for that. But I think the first step, as you mentioned, go through red line it, make your recommendations, and then we just want both groups kind of in agreement.
If everyone's good with that, I will add that to my list to do within the next couple of days or so, and then we'll put a finite deadline on it, give everybody like a week or so to be able to do it. Then, if nobody has anything else, the last piece of our discussion item is our next meeting date, as the second falls on Labor Day. So Liz, did you have recommendations for suggestions of new dates, or? My thought would be to push it back a week.
Let me just check the calendar.
But yeah, checking the actual calendar.
September 9th.
Yes.
looks like it would be good. I can confirm with you all tomorrow via email for September 9th at 6. Are you all available on that day?
Yes,
So,
I am.
Awesome.
Cool. Then yeah, if you can confirm with us tomorrow, then we can lock it in. But figured keep it the same day of the week too.
Yeah.
And it is a month with 5 Mondays versus 4. So cool. Well, then that is the end of our discussion items. Next is owner comments. Does anybody have, I guess, since it's all of us, any owner or committee comments or open discussion all at once?
I just want to say from a board liaison perspective, I really appreciate all of you. Just in the month or two that this committee has been online, or a couple months rather, the breadth of knowledge and the discussions and everything, it's really awesome watching this come together. So thank you to each and every one of you. And I'm continuing to be here as your advocate from the board perspective. So please reach out if there's anything you need. But again, thank you to each and every one of you. Kudos for what you're doing.
Happy to do it.
Thanks, Charles.
And thank you, Charles. Cool. Well, if nobody has anything else, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye.
Yes.
Cool,
care,
we're
everyone.
adjourned at 7:16. Thank you, guys.
thank
Thank
you.
you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Talk to you guys over email.
Yeah.
And thank you for your pen.